Ocean Story is with you, and I have new stories that touch me. I live in a great place with a beautiful view of the city. I have a big family and I have several nephews. The first of the nephews is Evelyn, who is 7 years old. And she is from my brother Mason, who is 34 years old. Another nephew is Benjamin, who is 5 years old. From my close friend Isabella, who is 36 years old. My brother and my friend are great with children. They show love to them with all the strength they can. About the moments where you need to raise children and help them grow up to be wonderful people. The two of them have different methods of raising children. My brother and my friend were greatly influenced by their parents and their upbringing. In their families, parental relationships were mostly somewhat absurd because everything was based on one important rule. If I'm older, I'm right, and I'm your dad or mom, so you have to obey me. In my opinion, this is somewhat wrong, but that's how they grew up. When I was a kid, it was really annoying, and I just wanted to run away from home. However, my brother did not become the kind of father who behaves like a piece of shit, who has power, and my nephew Benjamin. I can easily tell you why. He is a nice, kind, and wonderful guy. He really is, and he also knows how to listen to other children and behaves very well, and he respects everyone's personal boundaries. But the other niece is a little different, to put it mildly. Niece Evelyn can't listen to anyone. She has to talk all the time. She can't sit in one place for long. The girl can be unhappy with something all the time, walking around and being offended by something or someone. It's easy for her to throw a tantrum out of nothing. Evelyn knows how to press for pity, and she knows how to do it. If she whines for a long time, she'll get tired of it and have to give in. She's a bit of a cheater. The funny thing is that it's because of my brother's work at Mason. I've been asked to babysit Evelyn since she was a baby. Since she was a little girl, to be honest, it was hell to babysit her. And I'm not just saying that the child was impossible to control. She did whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. She didn't care about anything, whether it was expensive or cheap. She destroyed everything. If she didn't like something, she started screaming, and she screamed nonstop. It was almost impossible to close her mouth. She tore several of my clothes on me. Because she was angry, she broke the screen on my phone. When I turned on the wrong video she wanted, in my brother's house, you could put up new wallpaper every month. Because his daughter used to ruin them regularly, my brother apologized to me endlessly for the child, but he never thought of punishing her for any of her actions. My brother clearly said that they were just children who did not understand much. Therefore, she would hardly understand the punishment and would only be offended. I told him that because of such methods of education, she does not know the limits, and I will no longer sit with her one-on-one. I understand that she is a child, but this kind of upbringing will not do her any good either. Of course, I sit with my nephews like this. With Benjamin, I do it often, and it's very easy for me. He is well-mannered and calm, but with Evelyn, I sit once or twice a week. Physically, I can't take it more times. Soon, I have to go on vacation with my school friends. We are planning to go to some cool lake or waterfall. But unfortunately, many of my friends didn't make it. We agreed to go somewhere together some other time, but I didn't want to give up and refuse to go this year, so I thought it would be a good idea to invite my friend to go. So I thought about it for a while and decided that I would ask. I suggested that we drop a small amount of money and save up for some entertainment. My friend and her husband agreed to this proposal. When I started thinking about the details of the trip and where we would go, I got a call from my brother. He said would really like to go with his family, but unfortunately, they need to save a lot of money for a new house, so they won't be able to go. I sympathized and realized that this was how it would be. Of course, my brother told his daughter Evelyn about it. The next day, we had a family dinner. Evelyn was very upset that Benjamin was going on vacation, and she was not. It must have been a tragedy on a global scale for her. At one point, my brother's daughter looked me straight in the eye and said, "You have a good job. You have a lot of money. You don't have any children or animals. You can afford to pay for me and my family." I was a little bit touched by this, but I told her that even though I make more money than her dad or mom, I have my own needs, so I can't pay for everyone at once. The girl immediately responded to my words. "We are sitting in your new apartment. You have this expensive furniture and paintings. You can pay for me and my dad to leave." She was partly right, but I refused her a second time. She lasted 1 minute and started crying all over the apartment. The girl screamed and asked why you were so angry. She said that if I felt even a little sorry for them, I would have paid for them and everyone would have been fine. Evelyn, she said this over and over again. It seemed like an eternity. I could hear that cry and question through her tears. Every minute she was crying harder. Her parents couldn't do anything. There was no stopping her. She wanted to leave. Several times I still tried to react calmly, but on the 6th time, my patience just disappeared. I just told her in a loud voice, looking into her crying eyes, that I had no love for her, that she is a little disaster. I don't want to spend a single second of my life with her. I told her that she got me specifically and I was happy to never speak to her again. My words silenced her. She stopped saying anything. She just started crying quietly and did not raise her head. My brother immediately started talking. How could I say that to his daughter? Why I was so aggressive and not kind to the child. He called me aggressive and evil. Finally, my brother added that I made a bad decision to love only Benjamin. Because he is polite, can I really be considered bad? Because I don't want to be with a little tyrant. Oliver, the most unfortunate thing is that this child is not controlled at all. Her parents just don't deal with her, but you were no better than your little niece. You did the same thing she does, instead of using this as an opportunity to teach her something right. Tell your child carefully and lovingly that spending money is not the only way to show love to a person. You could teach them one of the most important lessons of life. And what did you do in the end? Yes, you just broke down and didn't use such a great moment. And it's unlikely that this shouting helped in that situation. James, you really shouldn't think too much about it. Raising your niece is not your responsibility. It's only for her parents, your brother and his wife. And these people created, not a child, they created a maniac who wants to get everything he wants, no matter what. But what Evelyn's parents simply ignore is that they need to be more strict. It's just stupid and inappropriate. In such a critical situation, of course, it's a shame for the child. But she shouldn't have to grow up like this. Even though it hurts her, something like this had to happen sometime. Emma, maybe this girl is not to blame for what she has become, and that she is difficult to be around. She's become a little devil, not because of herself. It's because of her parents who didn't take control in time. But you had only one role in that situation. You had to restrain yourself even more. And you had to see that you were not looking at an adult woman. She was just a child who had been spoiled. It would not have been a problem to refuse the little girl in a quiet and calm voice. But you decided to just not hold on any longer. Noah, I assure you that making a statement that she annoys you and you don't like her was a bad decision. That was a bad decision. Of course, you should expect emotions from a spoiled child and you shouldn't engage in this ridiculous comparison of your nephews, because telling a child that you don't love him or her doesn't mean anything. In general, if we consider the words that a person is valuable, they are worthless. But in a bad way, then you did a good job. I really agree with you that children don't deserve to get everything they want, but they absolutely deserve to be treated with kindness and love. And yes, even to undisciplined children who are hard to bear. I'm sure if you work on your emotions, everything will be fine, and you will make peace with your niece. Olivia, I know right away that with this kind of upbringing, this child will grow up to be unbearable and unhappy. I think the child needs to hear this for herself. Of course, it's not so harsh to tell her this, but it's worth it. You could have said, even though I have expensive things, it doesn't mean I can pay for you and your family. I also think that in Evelyn's family, they often discussed your financial situation if she was emphasizing it so much. Next story. Now I am 23 years old and I have a father who is 42. I happen to be the oldest child in our family. My dad has been married to my mom since he was young and she is a little older than him. They met when my father was 20 and she was 23. 2 years after they met, they realized that they loved each other, so they decided to get married. Now, I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. Over time, my father divorced and found a new woman, who is now my stepmother. My stepmother spoiled my father a lot. That's why I openly say that I have no love or respect for her. My father has really spoiled under the influence of this woman, and I feel sorry for him. Since his youth, my father had to work for the family. That's why he didn't even have a normal education. He couldn't take care of us because of his job. As soon as I became an adult, I left the house where my father and his new wife lived. I can't stand the way she treats my dad. Their whole relationship is so bad that I don't want to remember it anymore from time to time. I visit my dad when his wife goes out with her friends, but I miss my family, so I go to their house. However, I pray that I don't end up with my stepmother. That week my brother was celebrating his entrance to the university. He really wanted me to come with my girlfriend to the party. I had to put aside my hatred for my stepmother and come to the party for the sake of my favorite brother. While we were eating, we talked about old memories. I accidentally said that my girlfriend was 22 years old. My stepmother heard this and made a strange expression on her face. As if she was angry, she dared to ask me, how did I dare to have a relationship with a girl who was so young? I think it was her way of hurting my feelings. After all, she had a reason for me to fast after some time passed. I decided to ask my stepmother, does she have any moral rules? That my dad works all the time and she goes out and walks. Without even looking after the children, this question removed the smile from her face. My dad looked at me and changed the subject. He started to say something about an old aunt who was at our house a year ago. Well, that evening ended, and the next interesting day came. The morning started with a message from my dad, in which he said his wife doesn't want me to come to their house anymore. Even when she's not there, my stepmother also told my brothers and sister about it. Since then, they started treating her badly and hardly spoke to my stepmother. One of my sisters wrote to me. She said she supports me and wants our dad to finally leave that fool. However, she said that I should have been more restrained a couple of days ago. After all, I dealt a big blow to them and my stepmother. My girlfriend agrees with my sister. Then I talked to my brother. He said that my stepmother can't even think about what our dad is. She can leave her and live without her. However, somehow this became known to everyone. Our stepmother knew, our family knew. Even distant relatives found out about it. After that, my stepmother became particularly aggressive towards me. She accused me of speaking and thinking badly of her. After all, my dad did not marry her. We just live in the same house. She claims that I just want more attention from my dad. My relatives began to consider me a bad son. They said that I was a stupid shit who ruined my brother's holiday. I'm just in awe of this. What can I say? I can't call myself guilty or stupid. After all, it was she who started playing this game. I just continued and only I got a bad result. Jason, your stepmother is a very cunning and mean woman. You didn't say anything bad or mean, but she did, so I am delighted with your strong response. She wanted to make a fool of you so badly that she became one herself. She got what she deserved, and it's great. Madeline, is your family angry with you because they found out what really happened? Or did that goat stepmother tell them what happened on her end? It's so clear that she's the one to blame for this situation. If you want to come out on top in this situation, then you should write to everyone who asks what really happened. Honestly, tell them the truth. Sawyer, for this woman, the most important thing is probably how she will be thought of, not her own family. I don't think it's possible to tell all the relatives that you're not the first to be attacked. You were just defending yourself from her bad words. Maybe the holiday dinner wasn't the best time, but everything you said was right. I sincerely hope that your dad will leave this fool and finds a more decent woman for his family life, because this stepmother is not good for anything. And you did a good job standing up for your girlfriend. Now I want to tell a different story. My wife and I got married not long ago, so I can say that we have been happy for a long time. I see my wife all the time, but I rarely see his family. My wife's family has a good tradition. They go on vacation every year. Usually they go to warm places, but sometimes they go to the mountains. I'm on good terms with them, my husband's dad and mom, and they often ask me if I want to go with them. So far, I have not agreed to their proposals. For some reason, I was not comfortable. I have a great relationship with my wife, but with my wife's family, it's a little difficult. Recently, my wife's father suggested that I go with them. I was curious this time, so I decided it was time to go. Although I had some thoughts and started to doubt at one point, but my wife told me that it would be a great opportunity to get to know her family better. So I agreed to go with them. Her family was surprised to see me because they thought I would say that I had a lot of work and couldn't go, as usual. But when they saw me, they were happy to see me. We had a wonderful 3 days of vacation. I was delighted on the 4th day. We went to breakfast in the morning with everyone present. My wife's parents and her sister came to the table. They were talking about how great they were having a great time and what great emotions they were having. I went to the kitchen to make my specialty crab salad. My wife loves it. As I was walking from the kitchen to the table, where everyone was sitting, by chance, I heard my wife's sister start to say, "Didn't he have someone to stay in the city with and spend time elsewhere?" As I approached the table, I couldn't understand who they were talking about. However, literally 5 seconds later, I heard the following words. They were spoken by my wife. I understand perfectly well. Of course, I didn't want to bring my husband with me because he makes the atmosphere different. But what could I do? Sister, you know how intrusive he can be. All these words were like an arrow flying through my ear. I understood perfectly well that they were talking about me. This whole conversation, which seriously surprised me. And the dish of crab ended up on the floor. Because of my excitement, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All those damn days, I was there for them, helping them whenever they needed something. I shared my things and my laptop, and they think I'm in their way. I never went to the table. I quickly went to the room where we were staying and ordered a bus ticket. The first bus was in 40 minutes, so I managed to take all my things and go to the bus stop to get away from these people. We were 14 hours away from our camp, so I had to make more than one transfer. But I was ready when my wife saw that. I was nowhere to be found. She started calling and writing. But I didn't answer anything. It was only when I had traveled 70 kilometers that I wrote to her that I was home. Later, my wife got home. She immediately attacked me saying that I had acted recklessly and very stupidly. To all her words I replied that I had heard the conversation at their family's table. However, she began to justify herself saying that I was wrong. After all, I had overheard their private conversation. The wife continued to say that her family would be kinder to me if I behaved properly. There was only one condition. I had to stop asking to be with them all the time. It turns out that in her own words, my wife was making me feel guilty. After all, I agreed to go, not refused. She said that my coming home disappointed her and the whole family. I made a very bad impression on my wife's parents by doing this. Perhaps there is some truth in this, and I am a little guilty because I spoiled their mood a bit by running away. But did I really have to be there knowing that? Luke, come on man, you are husband and wife with her. You're not people who just started dating. You're married. I understand that your wife's sister was not alone. You had to deal with all the members of that family. It's a shame that your wife acted like a goat instead of asking her sister to cover her mouth. She was just reinforcing her words. Is this the behavior of a real wife who loves her husband? I think you know the story. What your wife did was disgusting. No matter how you slice it, you should consider whether you made the right choice in marrying her. Your wife didn't even tell your family in time that you would be on vacation with them. That's why they were surprised to see you. You don't even have to have enemies behind your back because the enemy is in bed with you. After that, you should not stay married to a person who does not love you, and there is no real desire to make you a part of this family. I know many wives who frankly do not love their husbands, but they pretend that they don't. Owen, man, it's simple. If their dad and mom couldn't raise them to be respectable adults, why should anyone else? It is unlikely that they will become such on their own. As for me, it's better to have a man who cares about his family and others as a son-in-law, not a man who lives thoughtlessly, has children, and constantly needs help with his family. It is because of these circumstances that I am sure it is better to be without a family and to live alone, not to bother anyone. Chloe, your wife is really a blunt. She told her sister in front of the whole family that you are annoying and you will definitely want to leave. With that, she has already put you in the wrong position in front of the family. You probably haven't spent much time with your wife's family, and who knows how many times she has coerced you in front of the family, so it is not surprising that they congratulate you to your face, and behind your back, they say how bad you are. This means that the family does not want to communicate with you and justifies your wife's words. Your wife doesn't want her family to love you. Carter, how interesting and strange your wife thinks. She wants you to stop insisting on being a family with your wife so much, but when your wife ignores your requests and you just can't stand it anymore and leave, she gets angry about it and makes you feel guilty. Your wife doesn't care about your feelings or what you think. She thinks more about how her family will treat you. It is dangerous to have a marriage with such a person, especially children. Such a wife will constantly lie to you, perhaps humiliate you, and she will do the worst. She will judge you and discuss you behind your back. This is a good indication that it doesn't matter how much or what you do for your wife's family. She will treat you like a servant or a person to be discussed. Do you really want to be with someone like that all the time? Luna, honestly, I think they are upset that you left. Only for a few reasons. The first one is that if you had stayed there, they could have saved on their money by spending all your money on themselves. The second reason, your wife's family lost their maid. And by abusing you, they probably showed love and care for your feelings. I think that's a great excuse for what they said. The problem is your wife and her family. Your wife doesn't even love you, apparently. You should be smart and just leave her alone. Joseph, it would be very good to know. Why is it that your wife's sister's husband is not treated like this, but you are? It would be fair if your parents spoke so rudely about their family. Do your parents have any special attitude toward your wife's sister's husband? Is he better looking or smarter? Why didn't he have to endure what you did? My next story. My mother is a very generous person. She can easily help someone without even thinking about her own benefit. If my mother did something good for me, she never tried to squeeze it for her own benefit. I can't say the same about my fiance's parents, or rather his mother. She never forgot about any good she did and then manipulated him. In 2 months, I'm getting married to an incredible man I've never met before. He's incredible, although he can be tense or in a bad mood sometimes. He feels like everything should be right and everything should be smooth. If something on this list is not right, it irritates him. Once, a few weeks before our wedding ceremony, my fiancé upset all of my family with his actions. He wanted to look at the costumes of all the close and respected men before the wedding, so nobody liked it at all. Neither my dad nor my brother, and even my friends were happy about this. My mom married a wonderful man when she was young. People envy and respect him. My friends are either in awe of him or his chi. As for me, his appearance should not cause such a strong reaction. The fact is that my dad's thing is to be beautiful for everyone. The day before yesterday, we went to a big family dinner hosted by my uncle. One day, my fiancé and I overheard my mother talking to her son from her first marriage. In that conversation, my mom said that it was because of my fiancé's action about controlling the costumes. She doesn't like him and thinks he's very strange. My half-brother agreed with what she said. My own dad doesn't like my husband as much as he could, but my dad understands why my boyfriend is so critical of her. After all, this is his special holiday, which will be once in a lifetime. That's why my fiancé wants everything to be normal. But my dad still doesn't like the coercion from my fiancé. However, later my stepbrother said that he didn't care because it didn't bother him. My mother said back to my dad, "Of course, it's you who is annoyed by it in every sense. Even though you understand why our daughter's boyfriend does it, but it's a bit beyond you." When I heard them talking about all this, I had the urge to go in there and say something, but I didn't have time to do it. My fiancé did it. He came into the room and started to clarify things. In that situation, I was completely on my husband's side. When we finished talking to my parents, we left them and talked alone. My husband was quite upset by what had happened. I really wanted to help him. I asked my husband how I could help him. He said that he could not stand his mother's presence at the wedding because she is very aggressive and says bad things about my husband. But there was a big nuance to all this. My mother paid for everything that concerned her, so we had to tolerate her presence at the wedding. I thought about it and I told him that maybe we could work something out. Still, I was able to find a solution for my mother. I simply withdrew her invitation. She was very upset. She said she didn't mean anything bad. But I was too hard on her and I needed to change my mind. A little later, my stepfather wrote that I was being mean to my own mother. I should love her and respect her, not kick her out of the wedding. Now everyone was angry with me. Before, it was only my husband who was to blame. And now, I am to blame along with him, but I think I did everything I had to do. Daniel, your fiancé sounds incredibly controlling and jealous. In my opinion, if you have decided to have a certain style for your wedding, it's not a bad thing, but if your fiancé decides to control the clothes of all the men, that's a bit much, to put it mildly. And the decision about your mother not inviting her because of something she discussed with her husband, well, that's just a little bit crazy. She has her own opinion, and she can share it. I'm glad you're so sensitive to your husband and want to support him in his time of need. But you should think about whether you have crossed the line. Ella, doesn't a mother have the right to consider her husband better than your fiancé? It seems to me that in this situation, you are wrong with your fiancé, and your mom and dad are not guilty of such a thing with you. What do you think you are? Michael, you are so interesting with the guy. Your mother paid for all of this and you just canceled the invitation in her name. It turns out that the main financier of the wedding won't even be at this wedding. And you know why? Because you and your fiancé overheard her having a private conversation with her father. And then it was your boyfriend who went to find out why they had such an opinion of him. I'm not really trying to make your mother's case. What she said was not something good or helpful. But your husband did the same thing to your mother. So I have to assume that your husband is a very arrogant person. Elizabeth, in general, you have a good reason not to invite your mother to this wedding. And even if you don't change your mind, you have to return the money. I wonder how you're going to organize the wedding without that money. It will probably be quite difficult for you and your fiancé. I would be thrilled if your mother asked for a refund. Where would you go from there? Jacob, you're just a little girl who doesn't understand things very well. You are becoming a wife for some idiot, and at the same time, you've ruined your relationship with your mom forever. I am 100% sure that your marriage will not last with this guy. I can even see that moment, how you return to your mom's house, and you ask to take her to live with you, because with this man you have now, you can't stand to live with him anymore, and I feel sorry for your mom. Her own daughter judged her and doesn't want to see her at the wedding. Because of a few words, you have brought everything to the point of absurdity with your husband, a story that really surprised me. My ex-wife and I live in the same house, but it's been a difficult time for our family. We are forced to divorce, so we haven't actually divorced yet. The house belongs to both of us. Unfortunately, a lot of my stuff will stay there. I decided so because I didn't want to contact my wife after filing for divorce. I moved to my own apartment to avoid being near her. A couple of days ago, I found out that my ex was going to visit his sister. She was planning to go there for a month, so I had enough time to get some of my things out of the house. It was especially important for me to take the chest. My grandfather gave me that chest when he was alive. It was an important synthetic thing for me. I told my ex that sometimes I would come by to get things. She didn't mind, and we calmly agreed. The first time I went to my former house, inside, my ex-wife's boyfriend met me in the living room. There was one big drawback, though. She hadn't warned me, or him, that we were going to meet there. It was an unexpected meeting for both of us. He got angry when he saw me. This guy immediately started threatening to throw me out. He even started saying that I had broken into the house like a burglar. He became so angry that he didn't even let me go further than the corridor. He did not let me take my important things. My words that I was the owner of this house didn't help him calm down and come to his senses at all. This asshole immediately started calling my ex, but he couldn't get through to her. She was always fighting him off. It took about 30 minutes of our conflict. In the end, I kicked him out of my house during this time. He really annoyed me, and I was angry. I took some of my things and went home. In the evening, I received a message from my wife. She asked why I had behaved so aggressively and thrown her boyfriend out of the apartment. I explained the whole situation, but she just started screaming emotionally. So we had a fight in the chat room in each of her voice messages. There were humiliating words for me. I didn't read what she wrote later. Was it really my fault in this situation? That guy could have let me take my stuff in peace. Miles, man, it's your house after all. Your ex didn't care about her boyfriend being there. Maybe she had a bad plan to piss you off. Sophie, I can only imagine what that must have been like. Your ex-wife's husband is sitting in your house. The landlord comes in unannounced, refuses to leave, and then kicks him out. It's really unfortunate, but it makes me laugh because your ex is a thoughtless woman who thinks only of herself. Kaylee, I don't think that guy is as guilty as the ex-wife. He clearly didn't know you were coming home. I can only assume that he didn't know that you could still have access to the house at any time. Parker, it's probably a good thing that guy didn't take your word for it. Maybe you would have taken her things. And it was definitely a theft. That's why he's not so bad. Maybe he should have talked to you in a nicer way. Suddenly he thought you were some guy who rents an apartment, while his girlfriend went on vacation anyway. That guy's reaction is too aggressive. He shouldn't have behaved like that in his own home. Maybe your ex-wife gave him a command that he should guard the house so that you don't get hurt. And he started doing this theater like he doesn't know anything. And anyway, it's the first time he's seen you here.